In the fast-paced world of NFL transactions, few moves generate as much shock and conversation as when a longtime franchise cornerstone suddenly changes teams. When news broke in March 2025 that DeMarcus Lawrence, the Dallas Cowboys veteran defensive end and four-time Pro Bowler, would be suiting up in Seattle Seahawks colors, fans across the football world were left stunned.
Dallas is my home. I'm forever going to be there, but, I know for sure I'm not going to win a Super Bowl there.
But what truly happened? Was he actually traded, as many initially believed, or was there more to this story that fans didn't know? I've gathered the details, so you don't have to. The inflammatory comment. The transition of a veteran player from one team to another is a common occurrence in the NFL. Typically, these departures are accompanied by gracious statements from both the player and the organization, expressing mutual respect and appreciation for the time spent together. However, DeMarcus Lawrence's exit from the Dallas Cowboys in March 2025 deviated significantly from this standard playbook, sending shockwaves through the NFL community and igniting a public feud that would expose underlying tensions within the Cowboys organization. The pivotal moment came during Lawrence's first media availability with the Seattle Seahawks following his signing. What could have been a routine introduction to his new team instead became the catalyst for controversy when Lawrence made a statement that cut to the core of the Cowboys' greatest insecurity, their decades-long Super Bowl drought.
Dallas is my home. I'm forever going to be there, but, I know for sure I'm not going to win a Super Bowl there. So, yeah. We here.
The repetition in Lawrence's statement only emphasized his conviction, and the bluntness of his assessment left no room for interpretation. He wasn't simply expressing hope for success with his new team. He was explicitly stating that he believed winning a championship with the Cowboys was impossible. For an organization that proudly calls itself America's team and has a storied history including 5 Super Bowl victories, Lawrence's comment struck a nerve, particularly given their failure to advance beyond the divisional round of the playoffs since their last Super Bowl win following the 1995 season. The timing of Lawrence's comment was especially pointed. The Cowboys' 2024 season had been disappointing, finishing with a 7-10 record and missing the playoffs entirely. Lawrence's statement seemed to confirm what many critics had been saying. Despite the talent on their roster, the Cowboys lacked something essential to become true championship contenders. Coming from a player who had been in the locker room for 11 seasons, this assessment carried particular weight. The reaction to Lawrence's comment was swift and came from an unexpected source. His former teammate, Micah Parsons. Parsons, who had emerged as one of the NFL's premier defensive talents since being drafted by the Cowboys in 2021, took to social media platform X to publicly rebuke Lawrence, calling his comments clown and attributing them to rejection and envy. This response revealed not just Parsons' loyalty to the Cowboys, but also hinted at underlying tensions between the two defensive stars. Lawrence didn't let Parsons' criticism go unanswered. He quickly fired back, suggesting Parsons should focus less on tweeting and more on winning, further escalating the public spat. This exchange, occurring less than a day after Lawrence's signing with Seattle, transformed what could have been a routine free agency move into a full-blown controversy, with media outlets across the country seizing on the feuding former teammates. The public nature of this disagreement was remarkable, especially considering that Lawrence and Parsons had been teammates for 4 seasons, from 2021 to 2024. During that time, they had formed the cornerstone of the Cowboys' defense, with Lawrence serving as the established veteran and Parsons as the ascending star. Their on-field collaboration had produced results, with both earning Pro Bowl selections during their time together. Yet now, with Lawrence departing for Seattle, the facade of harmony had cracked, revealing what appeared to be significant personal and professional tension. This sudden public dispute naturally led to speculation about when and how the relationship between Lawrence and Parsons had deteriorated. Some evidence suggested the tensions weren't entirely new. An X post from September 22, 2024, with over 26,000 views, had captured a sideline moment. DeMarcus Lawrence on the sidelines told Micah Parsons to shut the f*** up with all that yelling and play. This post, which had received 225 favorites, indicated that friction between the two defensive stars had been visible months before Lawrence's departure. As the feud played out publicly, fans and media alike began to dig deeper, searching for clues about the true nature of the relationship between Lawrence and Parsons. On Reddit's r/Cowboys subreddit, a thread titled "Micah Parsons and DeMarcus Lawrence Have Beef" and have for a while, generated significant discussion, with fans offering various perspectives on the situation. One Reddit user, BioBoost89, with 23 upvotes, expressed belief that the beef was legitimate and hoped Parsons could grow into a leader without D-Law's distractions. Another user, DapperAF, with 4 upvotes, offered a more nuanced take, noting that D-Law was a leader but underperformed, while Parsons is entitled but productive, suggesting this fundamental difference may have been at the root of their conflict. Perhaps most intriguingly, a Reddit user named Holy Roman Prince cited comments from former Cowboys player Jesse Holley regarding Parsons' alleged lack of accountability, claiming that D-Law had tried to hold players accountable during his time with the team. This comment, though downvoted in the thread -18, pointed to deeper issues of leadership style and locker room culture that may have contributed to the tension between the two players. On the other hand, former NFL linebacker Emmanuel Acho offered a more balanced assessment, suggesting that both players had handled the situation poorly, while acknowledging that there might be truth to Lawrence's critique of the Cowboys' championship prospects. Acho's analysis highlighted the complexity of the situation, recognizing that while Lawrence's delivery may have been unnecessarily provocative, his fundamental point about the Cowboys' postseason struggles was difficult to dismiss entirely. The public feud between Lawrence and Parsons transcended personal disagreement, taking on broader significance as a reflection of the Cowboys' organizational culture and championship readiness. Lawrence's comment about the impossibility of winning a Super Bowl in Dallas wasn't just a jab at his former team. It was an indictment of an organization that, despite its enormous popularity and financial success, had failed to translate these advantages into postseason achievements for nearly 3 decades. This tension between commercial success and competitive disappointment has long defined the modern Dallas Cowboys. Under owner Jerry Jones, who purchased the team in 1989, the Cowboys have become the most valuable sports franchise in the world, worth an estimated $9 billion as of 2024. The team's brand recognition, marketing prowess, and state-of-the-art facilities are unparalleled in the NFL. Yet since their last Super Bowl victory following the 1995 season, the Cowboys have not advanced beyond the divisional round of the playoffs, a stark contrast to their dominance in the early 1990s when they won 3 Super Bowls in 4 years, 1992, 1993, and 1995. Lawrence's comment cut straight to this paradox. How could a team with such resources, such visibility, and often such talent consistently fall short in the postseason? His insider perspective, having spent 11 seasons witnessing the inner workings of the organization, gave his assessment particular credibility, even as it provoked outrage from current Cowboys like Parsons, who remained committed to the team's championship aspirations. The feud also raised questions about leadership transitions within the Cowboys' locker room. Lawrence, at 32 years old when he signed with Seattle, had been one of the veteran voices on the defense, someone who had experienced both individual success, Pro Bowl selections, significant contracts, and team disappointment, playoff failures, during his time in Dallas. Parsons, at 25, represented the new generation of Cowboys leadership, having already established himself as one of the NFL's premier defensive talents with 4 Pro Bowl selections in his first 4 seasons. This generational shift was noted by Reddit user DifferentQuality28, who commented that Lawrence and Parsons were from different generations, and that the beef was ultimately irrelevant since D-Law wasn't re-signed by the team, while Parsons would get paid as the face of the defense moving forward. This perspective frames the conflict not just as a personal disagreement, but as a natural consequence of the evolving leadership structure within the team. The public nature of the feud also raised questions about the Cowboys' locker room culture and whether internal disagreements had been properly addressed during Lawrence's tenure. If tensions between 2 of the team's defensive leaders had been simmering for some time, as the evidence suggested, why hadn't the coaching staff or front office intervened to resolve these issues before they spilled into public view? One possible explanation lies in the Cowboys' management structure under Jerry Jones, who serves as both owner and general manager. This dual role, unusual in the NFL, has been criticized for potentially creating confusion about lines of authority and decision-making processes within the organization. If players like Lawrence and Parsons were receiving mixed messages about leadership expectations, or if clear channels for resolving disagreements weren't established, it could help explain why their conflict eventually erupted so publicly. The timing of Lawrence's departure and subsequent comments also coincided with broader organizational transitions for the Cowboys. The team had recently undergone a coaching change, with Mike McCarthy being replaced as head coach following the disappointing 2024 season. This instability in leadership may have contributed to Lawrence's pessimistic assessment of the team's championship prospects. Furthermore, Lawrence's move to Seattle represented a reunion with Aiden Durd, his former defensive line coach from Dallas, who had joined the Seahawks staff. This coaching connection may have influenced Lawrence's decision to sign with Seattle, providing him with familiarity in a new environment development through a coach who understood his abilities and approach to the game. The presence of a former Cowboys coach on the Seahawks staff could also have given Lawrence confidence in making such a definitive statement about Dallas's championship prospects, knowing he had an ally who might share similar perspectives on the organization's limitations. Dallas made Lawrence. It's important to understand who this defensive stalwart is and what he has meant to the Dallas Cowboys organization over the past decade. DeMarcus Lawrence, born on April 28, 1992, in Aiken, South Carolina, wasn't just another player who passed through Dallas. He was a cornerstone of their defense for 11 seasons, a period spanning from 2014 to 2024. Over his impressive tenure with the Cowboys, Lawrence accumulated 61.5 career sacks, ranking him 10th in franchise history. His defensive prowess earned him 4 Pro Bowl selections in 2017, 2018, 2022, and 2023, cementing his status as one of the premier defensive ends in the league. Lawrence's journey to NFL stardom wasn't always smooth. After playing college football at Boise State University, he was selected by the Cowboys in the second round of the 2014 NFL Draft, with the team trading up to secure him with the 34th overall pick. The Cowboys' decision to trade up for Lawrence demonstrated their belief in his potential, giving up their original second round, 47th overall, and third round, 78th overall picks to ensure they landed the promising defensive end. This move was particularly significant as the team was looking to bolster their defensive line following the departures of key players like DeMarcus Ware, Jason Hatcher, and Jay Ratliff. However, Lawrence's rookie season presented immediate challenges. A broken foot during training camp landed him on the reserve injured returnable list, causing him to miss the first 8 games of the season. Despite this setback, he managed to play in 7 regular season games and both playoff games, recording 11 tackles, 2.0 sacks, 2 fumble recoveries, and a forced fumble, a glimpse of the impact player he would become. The following years saw Lawrence develop into one of the NFL's premier defensive ends. His breakout came in 2017, a season in which he tied for second in the NFL with a career-best 14.5 sacks, leading the Cowboys with 52 pressures, the most by a Cowboys defender since Charles Haley in 1994. This exceptional performance earned him his first Pro Bowl selection and second-team All-Pro honors, finishing 4th in Defensive Player of the Year, voting with a career-high approximate value of 14. Throughout his career with Dallas, Lawrence wasn't just a pass-rushing specialist, he was a complete defensive end who excelled against the run and provided leadership in the locker room. By the end of his Cowboys tenure, his career statistics with the team included 450 tackles, 97 tackles for loss, 61.5 sacks, 21 forced fumbles, 8 fumble recoveries, 2 interceptions, and 2 defensive touchdowns across 141 regular season games with 123 starts. He also appeared in all 9 of the Cowboys' postseason games since 2014, starting the last 6. These numbers tell the story of a player who was not just productive, but consistently available and reliable, a true franchise cornerstone. But numbers alone don't capture Lawrence's significance to the Cowboys. Known by teammates and coaches as D-Law, he emerged as a vocal leader in the locker room, particularly on the defensive side of the ball. His dedication to his craft and his willingness to hold both himself and his teammates accountable earned him respect throughout the organization. This leadership would later become a crucial element in understanding the dynamics surrounding his departure. Lawrence's impact extended beyond the football field as well. Off the field, he demonstrated a commitment to philanthropy, serving as an honorary chair for Big Thoughts educational initiatives, particularly their Big Night fundraiser in 2023. His community engagement reflected a player who understood the platform professional sports provided and used it to make a positive difference. During his time with the Cowboys, Lawrence also formed significant relationships, including with younger defensive stars like Micah Parsons, who entered the league in 2021 as the Cowboys' first-round pick. The dynamic between these two defensive standouts would later become a focal point of discussion following Lawrence's departure. As the 2024 NFL season unfolded, Lawrence's 11th with the Cowboys, a significant setback occurred when he suffered a season-ending foot injury, specifically a right midfoot sprain, in Week 4. This injury limited him to just 4 games for the season, during which he recorded 14 tackles, 4 tackles for loss, 3 sacks, and 5 quarterback hits before being placed on injured reserve. The Cowboys, without their veteran defensive leader for much of the season, finished with a disappointing 7-10 record, missing the playoffs. The injury raised questions about Lawrence's future in Dallas. At 32 years old and coming off a significant injury, would the Cowboys be willing to continue investing in the veteran defensive end? These questions became particularly relevant as the 2025 offseason approached, and Lawrence's contract situation came into focus. Contrary to what some might assume based on headlines like "This is why DeMarcus Lawrence got traded," Lawrence was not actually traded from the Cowboys to the Seahawks. The reality of his departure is more nuanced and speaks to the complex nature of NFL roster management in the salary cap era. In March 2025, multiple sources, including The Athletic, NFL.com, ESPN, and NBC Sports, reported that Lawrence had agreed to a 3-year deal with the Seattle Seahawks worth up to $42 million, with $18 million guaranteed. This move occurred during the 2025 NFL free agency period, indicating that Lawrence had become a free agent rather than being traded. This distinction is important for understanding the full context of Lawrence's departure. Rather than the Cowboys actively deciding to move Lawrence to another team in exchange for draft picks or other players, which would constitute a trade, Lawrence's contract with Dallas had apparently expired, making him an unrestricted free agent, eligible to sign with any team. The Seahawks, seeing value in the veteran defensive end despite his recent injury, offered him a substantial contract that the Cowboys were either unwilling or unable to match. The specifics of Lawrence's new contract with Seattle provide further insights into how he was valued in the free agent market. His 3-year deal worth up to $42 million, with $18 million guaranteed, included a 2025 base salary of $5.15 million, a $3 million signing bonus, and a $4 million restructure bonus, carrying a $7.68 million cap, hit in 2025 and $13 million in dead cap value. The contract also featured performance incentives, such as $500,000 for Pro Bowl selection, $250,000 for 8 sacks, $500,000 for 10 sacks, and $750,000 for 12 sacks, with escalators doubling if the team makes the playoffs, and a $50,000 per game active bonus totaling $850,000. For a player of Lawrence's caliber and experience, this contract represented a significant investment by the Seahawks, albeit one that included protections for the team through performance-based incentives. The structure suggests Seattle saw Lawrence as a valuable addition who could contribute immediately, while also acknowledging the risks associated with signing a 32-year-old player coming off a significant injury. The question then becomes, why didn't the Cowboys retain Lawrence? Why would they let a player who had been so integral to their defense for over a decade simply walk away in free agency? The answers to these questions involve a complex interplay of factors, including performance evaluation, salary cap considerations, and organizational priorities. One significant factor appears to be Lawrence's performance trajectory in recent years. After signing a 5-year, $105 million guaranteed deal with the Cowboys in 2019, Lawrence's sack production had declined, with no season exceeding 6.5 sacks. While sacks aren't the only measure of a defensive end's effectiveness, they are often the most visible and celebrated statistic for the position, and Lawrence's decline in this area may have influenced the Cowboys' evaluation of his value moving forward. This decline becomes more apparent when examining Lawrence's advanced metrics from his injury-shortened 2024 season. According to Pro Football Focus, PFF, Lawrence received an overall grade of 56.8, ranking 133rd among edge defenders. In his limited playing time, he recorded 167 snaps, 137th among edge defenders, 9 pressures, 124th, a 53.9 pass rush grade, 161st, and a somewhat better 62.4 run defense grade, 89th. These statistics suggest that while Lawrence remained reasonably effective against the run, his pass rushing productivity had diminished significantly. When combined with his age, turning 33 in April 2025, and recent injury history, these performance metrics likely raised concerns for the Cowboys front office about Lawrence's ability to maintain elite-level play moving forward. In the NFL, where teams must constantly balance present needs with future considerations, these concerns would have factored heavily into their decision-making process regarding Lawrence's contract. Salary cap considerations almost certainly played a major role as well. The NFL operates under a hard salary cap, meaning teams have a limited amount of money they can spend on player contracts each season. The Cowboys, known for tight cap management, may have viewed Lawrence's recent performance and injury history as reasons to allocate their limited resources elsewhere, especially with other roster needs to address. Furthermore, the emergence of younger defensive stars like Micah Parsons may have influenced the Cowboys' prioritization. Parsons, drafted in 2021, quickly established himself as an elite defensive playmaker, earning Pro Bowl selections in each of his first 4 seasons, 2021 to 2024, and accumulating 52.5 career sacks and 274 combined tackles by 2025. With Parsons emerging as the new face of the Cowboys' defense, the team may have felt more comfortable moving on from Lawrence, especially if they anticipated needing to allocate significant resources to extend Parsons in the near future. As March 2025 approached and Lawrence's free agency became imminent, the diverging paths paths between player and team became clearer. The Seahawks, under new defensive leadership, saw value in adding an experienced edge rusher like Lawrence to complement their defensive line, which already included 2024 Pro Bowl selection Leonard Williams and first-round pick Byron Murphy. The move to Seattle also reunited Lawrence with Aiden Doherty, his former Cowboys defensive line coach, who had joined the Seahawks staff. The dust had barely settled on DeMarcus Lawrence's inflammatory comments about the Dallas Cowboys championship prospects when the ripple effects began to manifest throughout both organizations. The aftermath and implications. What started as a free agency transaction had evolved into a full-blown controversy that would shape narratives, influence team dynamics, and potentially impact on-field performance for both the Cowboys and Seahawks in the 2025 season and beyond. For the Dallas Cowboys, Lawrence's departure and subsequent comments created multiple challenges. First and foremost was the practical matter of replacing a player who, despite his recent injury and performance decline, had been a constant presence on their defensive line for 11 seasons. Lawrence's experience, leadership, and established role in their defensive scheme weren't easily replaceable, particularly given the timing of his departure in March 2025, after the initial wave of free agency, when most premier defensive ends had already signed with new teams. Beyond the on-field implications, the Cowboys faced a significant perception problem. Lawrence's blunt assessment that winning a Super Bowl in Dallas was impossible had publicly validated a criticism that had dogged the organization for years. Coming from someone who had spent over a decade inside the organization, his comments carried particular weight and threatened to reinforce the narrative that the Cowboys, for all their financial success, brand recognition, and regular season achievements, lacked something essential for postseason success. This perception challenge was compounded by the public feud between Lawrence and Micah Parsons, which exposed potential locker room divisions and raised questions about the team's culture and leadership structure. If two of the team's defensive captains had been at odds, as the evidence suggested, what did that reveal about the broader organizational environment? The very public nature of their disagreement made it impossible for the Cowboys to dismiss these questions or manage the narrative through carefully crafted press statements. For Parsons specifically, Lawrence's departure and their subsequent public disagreement presented both a challenge and an opportunity. As the now undisputed face of the Cowboys defense at just 25 years old, Parsons would need to step into an even more prominent leadership role, filling the void left by Lawrence's experience and voice in the locker room. The way he handled this transition would be crucial for the defense's performance and cohesion in the 2025 season. Parsons' initial reaction, publicly calling out Lawrence's comments as clown shit on social media, demonstrated his loyalty to the Cowboys organization, but also raised questions about his maturity and leadership approach. As noted by Reddit user DapperAF, while Parsons was undeniably productive on the field, some perceived him as entitled, a trait that could potentially complicate his effectiveness as a leader. The Cowboys' front office and coaching staff faced their own set of challenges in managing the fallout from Lawrence's departure. They needed to publicly support Parsons while avoiding further escalation of the feud, address legitimate concerns about defensive depth following Lawrence's exit, and counter the damaging perception that championship success in Dallas was unattainable. This delicate balancing act would require careful messaging and, more importantly, on-field results to demonstrate that Lawrence's assessment was wrong. Meanwhile, in Seattle, the Seahawks found themselves navigating unexpected attention following Lawrence's signing. What should have been a straightforward acquisition of an experienced defensive end to bolster their defensive line had instead thrust them into the center of an NFL controversy. The organization needed to support their new high-profile signing while avoiding being perceived as endorsing criticism of another NFL franchise. For Lawrence personally, the move to Seattle represented more than just a new contract at age 32. It was a chance to prove his assertion that championship success was more attainable with the Seahawks than with the Cowboys. His 3-year, $42 million deal with Seattle included significant performance incentives related to both individual achievements, Pro Bowl selection, sack totals, and team success, playoff appearances, directly aligning his financial interests with his stated championship ambitions. The Seahawks' defensive infrastructure offered Lawrence some reasons for optimism. The team had shown improvement under head coach Mike Macdonald, raising their defensive ranking from 30th to 14th in total yards allowed in 2023. Lawrence would be joining a defensive line that already included 2024 Pro Bowl selection Leonard Williams and first-round pick Byron Murphy, suggesting potential for a formidable pass rush. Perhaps most significantly, Lawrence's move to Seattle reunited him with with Adden Durd, his former Cowboys defensive line coach who had joined the Seahawks staff. This coaching connection provided Lawrence with familiarity in his new environment through a coach who understood his abilities and approach to the game. For the Seahawks, Durd's insight into Lawrence's capabilities likely increased their confidence in making a substantial investment in the veteran defensive end. As both organizations moved forward from the immediate controversy, the focus gradually shifted to on-field preparations for the 2025 season. For the Cowboys, this meant addressing their defensive line rotation without Lawrence. While they had young talent in the pipeline, replacing Lawrence's experience and leadership presented a significant challenge. The defense would need to establish new communication patterns and leadership structures, with Parsons likely taking on increased responsibility in both areas.